Hi guys. So it's been just over a year since I moved to the UK, and a lot of you have been asking me over the past few months what I thought of the UK, especially since it's been a good amount of time to try and gauge what the country is like right now and what my takeaway was. And I thought it was important to share this with you because while I have been sharing my learnings as we went along this journey, I think a year is a good place to stop and take stock of everything that's happened and whether this move has been justified or not, and tell you what life is like in the UK right now, which is why I decided to make this video. Now, some of the points you may have heard someone else mention in the past, but some of the points I'm pretty sure you haven't heard anyone talk about, and that is the reality of living in the UK. And I think if you're moving and you're planning to move, it's really important for you to know this before you take that big leap. So let's dive in. Now, one of the lessons I have learned ever since I moved to the UK was how important it is to take your vitamins. And at the top of your head, you might just think this is ridiculous. I mean, it's not important to me, but you couldn't be more wrong. So I have been taking vitamin D pills ever since I moved to the UK because I understood that there was a challenge with sunlight over here and everything. And that being said, I decided to do a blood test the minute we went home this time to India. We were there for a couple of months. And I decided to do a whole body checkup, primarily because I was tired all the time. Like if you've been following my Instagram stories, I had mentioned it and I didn't think too much of it. But apart from that, as the time went by, I started feeling very drowsy through the day as well. And I realized I was losing a lot of hair. So I decided to do a full body checkup. And as it turned out, my vitamin D was so low that if I had even a minor fall, I ran the risk of breaking bones in my body because I had absolutely very, very little vitamin D in my body, which is why my hair was falling out in chunks. I couldn't stay awake through the day and I was exhausted all the time. And this is despite taking the vitamin D tablets. And obviously then my dosage had to be increased. And ever since then, I have been extremely on the alert. So every time my joints start to ache, because that will typically happen in the UK in case you are living in a cold place, typically, which the UK is. And when you're walking up the stairs, for instance, you realize your joints are starting to hurt. That's exactly when you quickly go do a blood test, and you check if your vitamin D is on point or not. And if it's not, I request you to immediately go meet your GP. Now, the next thing is something I don't like as much about the UK, and it's not the UK's fault, it's mainly Etailers' fault, to be really honest. The UK has a lot of options for shopping, for online web shopping with Etailers. But the challenge comes when you want to return something. It can be honestly a headache. Most retailers don't have a pickup option, which means if you want to return something, you have to go to the post office or a nearby designated shop if you want to return the parcel or whatever you just bought. Now, at the store, if you're lucky, there will be an option to print a label and stick it on the package that you want to send back. Or else you need to print it from your own house and then bring it to the store after you've sealed off the whole package, which then means you need a printer. Now, if it's a small package, it's alright, but imagine you've ordered something bulky and then you're just lugging it and walking around town because you have to return it, right? Not really the best option. And if you have a car, great, but if you don't have a car, that can be quite challenging. And now, to all of this, add the rain. So you're carrying your heavy package and probably dropping your child to school and holding an umbrella. It's not going to be fun. Now, there are some retailers, in all fairness, that have delivery returns options, but they do charge for it. One of them is Next, that I am aware of. But a lot of other ones like Amazon, ASOS, Debenhams, none of them have the option of picking up the returns. Something very funny that I wanted to bring up was that your lifestyle as far as food is concerned might change after you come to the UK, because this happened to me. When I moved to the UK a year ago, I was not lactose intolerant, but I think within a week of moving to the UK, I could no longer consume milk, and I was really upset about it. But then I eventually moved to oat milk. Despite that, I was still able to consume cheese and ice cream and everything else. But as the months rolled by, I have now come to realize I can't have cheese either. I can't have milk, obviously. And I can't have ice cream or any of that. And I'm really upset because I'm somebody who loves dairy products and I've had dairy my whole life. But since I've come here, well, that's changed. Now, The other problem over here is that a lot of the food that is non-veg typically has either beef or pork in it, and very, very few options have chicken. I'm someone who typically does not enjoy eating too much of red meat. I eat it, but if I have an option, I would rather not. That's how I would like to put it. But the problem is that even when you order a chicken salad here at times, and unless you specify, the chicken salad will possibly come with bacon in it. And if you order a sandwich, which is a chicken sandwich, there's a very high possibility there'll be ham in it. So now if you think of my situation where I'm somebody who doesn't like to eat red meat, so eating non-veg becomes difficult outside because most of the options have red meat in them, and a lot of restaurants and cafes don't even have a chicken sandwich. So then you're stuck because you have to just order vegetarian. But the problem with ordering vegetarian in my case is that all of them come with cheese, which is something I can't eat again. So then there's almost nothing to eat, which can be quite a problem. But I somehow manage, and I'm guessing you will as well. But it's just something you should keep in mind, especially if you don't eat beef or pork. It's really important for you, if you're going out to eat, that you specify to whoever's taking your order that you don't want beef or pork. And if you're buying sandwiches or anything that's pre-prepared, please read the ingredients, because there are very many times when you order a sandwich without realizing there's bacon in it, and then there's no option. And there is a possibility you might end up being lactose intolerant like me when you come here. But if you do, don't worry, because a lot of places have oat milk, and I always take my coffee now with oat milk to just eliminate the problem. And you also get cheese alternatives, lactose-free cheese over here, and it really, really helps. So don't be too stressed if you turned out to be like me, you will still manage. Now, the next point is determining carefully where you live in the UK. Let's be really honest, where you live in the UK is going to entirely determine what your experience is going to be like. We live in Maidenhead, and we made a conscious decision to stay in Maidenhead because the safety is pretty good, the crime is really low. The houses are decently priced. It's very clean, it's very safe, and it was really close to London, and really good schools, which were our priorities. But the trade-off that we had was that there isn't much of a social life you'll have here, and there aren't many things to do for entertainment. And it gets a little boring and dull and lonely. And obviously you don't have too many services because of that, or you don't have too many stores because of that. But that's a decision we were fine with. The other thing is, when you stay in places like Maidenhead or small towns, you do need a car because, well, you can't get from point A to point B. We don't have the tube like London does. So that's something you should bear in mind as well. Now, if you live in London, on the other hand, everything is going to be really expensive. And of course, in pockets, it gets a little unsafe and the crime's higher. But the flip side is there's always something to do. There are always people you can meet. If you're looking for people from whichever country you belong to, there will always be tons of people, because there are people from all over the world in London, and a lot of people from all over the world. And there's always great food to eat. You will always have some mode of transport or the other, so you won't get stranded somewhere. And there's so much to do. You can join classes, you can join dance classes, music classes, all of them. And the thing is, you have multiple options for each of them. If you want services, you can get cooks, you can get cleaners who don't come with a very big price tag. So it's really important for you to try and understand what your priorities are. But before I move ahead, if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, now's the time to do it. Hit the subscribe button now and click on the bell icon for notifications. I typically talk about moving to the UK, sometimes other things. So if you want to know more about moving to the UK, or you just want to hear me rant on and on, you should follow this channel. Now, when it comes to healthcare, the UK has a pretty robust system. That is until you fall ill on the weekends. So typically what happens is, when you need to go to the doctor in the UK, you just call up your GP, and all of that works fine until you get ill on a weekend, which is the hugest challenge I have come across until now. So if you fall ill on a weekend, you typically need to call 111, and it takes forever to get through someone and for them to call you back. Your other alternate is to go to the A&E, which is the accidents and emergencies, and wait for a couple of hours before a doctor sees you. Now, you might consider a private hospital, but the thing with private hospitals is you have to make appointments on weekdays for a lot of them, at least the ones we tried. And a lot of them aren't even open on weekends, and even if they are really, really expensive. So your options aren't really good. And to add to it, a lot of small towns don't have an A&E. Maidenhead, for instance, does not have an A&E. It used to have one when we moved here, and as per my knowledge, it's shut since then. So in case of an emergency, now we have to drive to Slough, which is the next town, because Maidenhead doesn't have an A&E. And that can be really challenging. Oh, and after we drive to Slough, we have to wait for hours at the hospital. Now, I'm not blaming anyone or pointing fingers, because the doctors here, trust me, are doing an incredible job and are extremely overworked, but something's gone wrong somewhere, and I wish I had an answer as to why or what, but I don't. But the simple fact is that if you are somebody who suffers from chronic health issues, you might want to consider all of this before you move, because like I said, getting healthcare on the weekends can be really tricky and really challenging. Another thing I really like about the UK is how multicultural it is, and this is a small example. Just a few weeks ago, my son's school celebrated Diwali, and it was really nice. They taught the kids in school about Diwali, the origin of Diwali and how it began, why we celebrate it. And apart from that, they also engaged the children in creating decorations for Diwali. Then there was a small little celebration after school where all the parents and children were invited for Diwali sweets at the end of the day. And I just think that was beautiful. They also did something similar for the Chinese New Year. And I think it's really important for us to put our children in positions where they can appreciate other people's cultures as well, and B, for all of us to be appreciative as well. Now, something I really like in the UK is the concept of charity shops, which we really didn't have in India that I was aware of. So bear with me in case I'm wrong. So a few weeks ago, one of my friends just moved to the UK, and he told me that he bought all of his furniture from British Heart Foundation. And I was very surprised, because in Maidenhead, British Heart is a really small outlet, and there's barely any furniture. It's all mostly just a few clothes and a little crockery and everything. But when we were passing by Cambridge a few days ago, we happened to realize that they had a huge British Heart Foundation in Cambridge, and it was filled with furniture. So I'm guessing there are bigger outlets throughout the country. I haven't come across one until now, but that is an amazing option, because if you don't know, British Heart typically sells pre-owned furniture, and all the other charities sell pre-owned furniture, and you get some really great deals over here. And it's not just furniture, they have clothes, they have books, they have household items, they have crockery. So it's all stuff that you don't really have to waste money on if you're coming to the UK and you don't want to splurge too much. Coming to something I don't love too much again, the taxes in the UK. If you are planning on working in the UK, be prepared to lose a whole chunk of your money in terms of taxes. There are three major types of taxes in the UK. There is income tax, there is national contributions to pension, and there is VAT. And apart from this, in some scenarios, you also have to pay tax on earnings in other countries. The challenge is that if you earn anything above 50,271, you end up paying almost half of your salary in tax. And that can be a lot of money. And considering that that's about the average salary for most of the jobs in the UK, you should count yourself as one of them. If you're earning lesser than that, it's going to be challenging to just live in the UK. If you're earning more than that, you're going to lose half your salary in tax. Wow, so that's a lot of money you should be prepared to lose. And finally, something really important. After listening to everyone's stories of all the people who I've interacted with for a year, and my own and the people I know in the UK, I've realized one thing. Everyone has different journeys, which means everyone has different experiences at the end of the day. Some people struggle to get a visa, some people get it at the first shot, some people come to the UK and absolutely hate it, some people love it and do not want to move ever if they can help it, right? Everyone has a different experience. The point I'm trying to make is that there isn't one mold that fits all, and I might tell you that I love it, and some other YouTuber may say they absolutely don't, or somebody in the comments may tell you that moving to the UK is a terrible decision. It varies from person to person, and what you need to keep in mind is you have to understand the motivations behind why someone is saying something to you. So when I say I love the UK, I love it basis everything that's going on in my life right now, the situations I am in, and the factors that were important to me. It doesn't necessarily need to be true for you. The same goes for when somebody says they hate it. It could be because they came here and maybe they faced some amount of racial discrimination. It could be because they aren't getting enough money as they should typically get. It could be that they came here as students and they weren't able to convert their graduate visas into work visas. So what I'm trying to say is that it's really important for you to do your research and try and hear as many opinions as you can versus just one and making up your decision. And even after you hear the opinions, go back and try and understand why they have the opinions and what factors they have in their life that are influencing their opinions. If you have a huge overlap with those factors, you probably give more weightage to that opinion. If you have very little in common with that person, you probably take what they're saying with a pinch of salt, or you just keep it in mind, but you don't necessarily make it your truth. You need to identify which of those points are relevant to you. Not everything will be relevant to you. And with that, it's a wrap. But before I go, if you do still want to move to the UK, despite all the opinions I've just given you, positive and negative, also let me say I love the UK, so I hope there's no confusion over there. But if you are still looking to move to the UK, that's really good news, because the last video I put out covers a bunch of jobs that are open right now and are offering visa sponsorship. So if I were you, I wouldn't wait too long. All you need to do is click this.